What's up, bitches? Oh, but hello, my wonderful, beautiful broskies of the wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation. I am the one and only Dark Shadow Maverick. And, well, yes, indeed, that first part of my little intro there was a reference to epic rap battles of history. Theodore Roosevelt versus Winston Churchill. So, yeah. Go check out ERB if you haven't already. They're pretty cool. Anyways, in my first part of my little What if Izuku was Lucy from Elfen Lied video, I got a comment saying that they didn't know what anime this was. And, however, this thing, they wanted me, to see, what if Izuku was married to these two characters from this one anime? Which, A, I didn't even know existed, and B, I had to do some research of my own to actually even freaking remember anything. Or, not remember anything, but even know anything. So, yeah, well, my first attempt at this, I was actually going to go all the way back to, the beginning for Izuku. Not really the beginning as, whenever he was born, but, the beginning, whenever he first starts out, at the beginning of canon of My Hero Academia, and have Rem and Ram in there. Basically, they're going to have their, bare minimal abilities, Rem and Ram. However, the way I was making it, it was it was going to progress until they got married. And that's whenever I realized I didn't like where the whole story was going, if it was going to go in that direction. Basically, for Ram, I got wind magic, the divine protection, and the fact that she has a wand, which is basically like a conductor for her magic. And the divine protection is, I guess, some sort of, advanced version of telepathy, you, connected to people if they're, capable, and, so she can use this to, see very far and, talk to people, I think. I am very iffy knowledge on I don't even remember. ReZero, yeah, the name of the anime is ReZero. I just now remembered. Rem's abilities, however, the water magic, healing, telepathy, chain Morningstar, that's her weapon. The chain Morningstar, which I gotta admit, as much Harry Potter that I do like, the idea of a chain Morningstar, I just love that shit. Love it to bits. So, yeah. Instead of starting off from the very beginning of, canon, or, somewhere around that, to where we can, get something, I'm gonna get something from, building a story up from, the end of, My Hero Academia. Or at least what seems to be the end. And by that I mean the Heroes vs. Villains War Arc. Basically, at the end of that, and I have been recently informed that Midnight is one of the, several people that died. Yes, Midnight is dead, and apparently Mount Lady took her spot. Well, shit, that's very, you know, wow. Just really, wow. So, yeah. Basically, this is more or less going to be like towards like at least my version of a conclusive end for the war arc, and like afterwards, like what would happen afterwards. Like the conclusive end that I will come up with, and then afterwards, everything afterwards. Like what I would see happening in the future. Well, basically, if we're looking for the conclusive end, basically that's, what can I say, really? You can't really keep one front a secret, forever. And I guess that's something that Izuku, Bakugo, and All Might pretty much all know now, at least by now, that they can't really keep it a secret forever, so eventually one front would be revealed, and not only that, but it would be revealed that basically everyone put in a big vote after the war arc was after the entire war was finished. Everyone put in a big vote for Izuku Midoriya, and Izuku's like, big vote for what? And well, basically Izuku Midoriya is to be the next #1 hero. Symbol of peace. Because All Might isn't really, doing hero work anymore. So, yeah. Izuku is to be the next symbol of peace. The new #1 hero. And, well, that's just left things to be things. After all of that, well, what I would indeed see happening is Izuku would go, and just grow more and more, distant from his own family, the family that he already, does know, like Inko, Mitsuki, Bakugo, to an extent, because, Aunt Mitsuki, so I guess Bakugo would be considered like an extended family. So yeah, he would basically grow increasingly distant from his family, and just more or less kind of like Aizawa, but in the day, so he would be basically someone who only popped around every now and again. However, whenever he did pop out, he would indeed show people why he should stay on that #1 spot. Even if he didn't mean to, even if it was just him doing his job. This is something that he's always been working towards, becoming a hero. And now, not only is he a hero, but he is the symbol of peace, the #1 hero. #1 pro hero. In all of Japan. And so, certain members of Izuku's family and distant family gotta take this with a grain of salt, how Izuku is approaching everything. Very cautiously, and very, coldly as well. With that kind of thing. Honestly, Izuku would indeed go off, and whoever the person who was the boss or the owner of whatever sort of mansion, basically by the time the events that are about to happen, basically let's just say he got an illness and like they didn't really have what was needed to cure it, you know, at their like hand in their hands right now. They didn't really have what they needed. So basically they, eventually, had to accept that, he was going to die. But like Rem and Ram would be like, well then who is left? Like, and the one guy who had that relationship with that one girl, and he just seems to have focused completely on that one girl and no one else recently, and just swiped left, like gone off the map, like never even seen anymore. So it's just like Rem and Ram. Like, more and more people seem to be leaving, and so by the time Izuku is starting to straighten out things, you know, doing his whole hero career, you know, Rem and Ram, they're left alone at, this whole big place, and, well, there was indeed one last thing that the guy said that, to give this whole thing off to someone who was worthy of it. But until then, basically, it would just be like an abandoned building, with the only two there really just being Ram and Rem, like Rem and Ram. So, yeah, basically just being wondering, like, who could be worthy? Basically, they're the only ones who can really tell who is worthy. Though they did ask several times, like, for, like, hints on, like, what he meant by, like, worthy. And, well, they did indeed get hints, but not too many hints that were all that useful. They just got the occasional hint that could lean to something, but, it was all the same. Like, they still ended up feeling like they never left square one. That is until one day whenever Rem, going outside, doing her thing, Ram, being her closed off self, really wouldn't go outside as much as Rem would nowadays. However, Rem would kind of get a little bit of a rude awakening whenever all of a sudden she would see this person. He would be like, come on, pretty, we can play. I mean, come on. You don't want to deprive, the both of us of having some fun. I'm sure you could get something out of it, too. I mean, come on. Just a little peek. Nothing much. Come on. Yeah, so honestly, this guy wants to rape her. And, Rim can see that automatically, that, this guy's intentions. However, something that happened automatically whenever, Rim saw this guy is he basically slipped some sort of collar around her neck. And, the guy just freely admits that it's a quirk canceling, collar. And let's just say the magic, from, like, I forget the name of the anime again, but whatever anime that Rem and Ram are from, that the magic / mana, like, from that anime and quirks are kind of, do have indeed a certain similarity that would allow this to work, on her. So basically, her powers, like concerning all of that, would indeed actually cancel out her magic. Because I'm gonna say that they have enough similarities, quirks, and the magic from, the universe of Rem and Ram's little thing. Basically, that. Basically like a quirk cancellation collar would basically work the same for both quirks and what Rem and Ram have, which is magic and like mana and stuff, and like the Oni bloodline. However, this will only be cause for Ram to scream. And Ram would be like, what the frick? Basically, the scream would alert someone who would be nearby, just taking a leisurely stroll, seeing if they can find any villains, but trying not to look too suspicious. Basically, knowing if they were doing the best job, or not, but, still taking their leisurely stroll. They're taking their sweet ass time. And, well, same could be said for freaking Ram, because it actually taken her a while to get to Ram, who is panicking because of the fact that she can't use her freaking magic. And so, well, she's actually trying to reach for her chain Morning Star, but the guy isn't gonna let her do that. He literally points a gun to her head and, like, the minute you try to reach for that, I'd blow your brains out. Got that? Like, he would literally just call her, like, a female dog. Yeah, and, Izuku would not like that. Yes, indeed, Izuku would spring into action because he would have been nearby, heard the scream, and know that he had to do something. He would just decide, Detroit Smash! And just kick the guy's, you just kick the guy's ass. And, well, using the power of, well, Volcowling, easily freaking not just break, but destroy the quirk canceling collar that was put on Ren. And, it would just be like, whoa, you're strong. And, well, from then on there, like, it would take some little bit more convincing for Ram to get, idolizing in Izuku's, stuff, like, to get it on with the full package. Basically, Rem would see that Izuku, not only Izuku explaining the fact that he is the literal #1 pro hero, the symbol of peace. Basically, just from that alone, Ram would be like, okay, this guy did indeed stop that villain. And where have I heard that whole thing, Detroit Smash, before? Wait, you just happen to be someone who trained under All Might? And Izuku would be like, well, yes, whenever he was still doing hero work, yes, indeed. And, well, Rem and Ram would both, at this point, be like, okay, we're in. Like, Ram at this point would be completely convinced this kid was worth it. And then, like, Ram would remind her, not much older than the kid, as she calls him. As Ram would call him. And Ram would just be like, fine. Well, then what do we call you? And, Izuku would just be like, well, my pro hero name as a symbol of peace and all is Deku. But you could call me Izuku Midoriya. Or just Izuku. And, well, basically, Rim would just be like, well, hey, Izuku. How is everything? Thanks for saving me and all. Can't be any more grateful. And Izuku would just be like, oh, it's nothing. It's the job of the hero to, save those that need saving. And, Ren would just be like, this guy, he's honestly acting with genuine heroism. Well, I guess he really is worthy. Well, I guess Rem, yeah, any day now. Actually, if he's gonna be in on this, we should honestly give him a tour. And, well, Izuku would be like, well, he doesn't, live at his, mother's house anymore. And any distant family, he doesn't live at their houses anymore. He doesn't live at their houses, so... yeah, basically. Somewhere to be his HQ of the #1 hero. The one thing that he does like about constantly being on the move is that whenever you're constantly on the move, it makes it a lot harder for the press to be able to find you. And Rem and Ram would just be like, oh, don't worry, we'll deal with any press. We are meant to serve, those that are worthy. That is what indeed our master said before he died. For that who is worthy, the one who is worthy, or ones that are worthy, that we would serve them. And allow them to stay in this humble abode. And Izuku would just be like, so that's why you let me in. You thought that since, I'm basically the new symbol of peace, and, well, #1 pro hero, and what I did to, save, and Ram would just be like, Ram's my twin sister. And Izuku would be like, well, I do indeed see some resemblance, so can't be too far off. Basically like, well, save your twin sister. That's why you think I'm worthy? Well, then I guess we'll commence the tour. And Ram's like, that's exactly what I was about to do. Well, with my sister's help, that is. And Ren would just be like, of course. I would be glad to help. And, they would just be in their standard maid attire. And, well, just knowing about the fact that they are basically serving the freaking, not just #1 pro hero, but in the fact that he is the new #1 pro hero, he is the new symbol of freaking peace. So, yeah, they're serving the symbol of peace. They couldn't be more happier to do so, especially seeing what he did for, both of them. Saving Rim and thus, allowing Ram to breathe easy. about the whole thing. And so basically, yeah, Izuku would be like, so are any of you gonna, call the authorities about the guy's body? I mean, I can't, seem to get off my mind that thinking you girls just forgot that he was there. And, well, Ram would just be like, well, as first, I could always indeed be the one to pick up the phone. And Ram would be like, trying to outshadow me, sis. And Ram is just like, can't hear you, talking with the police. Oh, yes, Officer Namasa. She is literally talking with Namasa right now. Talking with Namasa. And she'd be like, yes, indeed. And she would just tell, like, where, like, their residence. And, that there is, the unconscious body of a criminal in their rose garden. And, well, Namasa would indeed send himself and some troops over to, claim the crook, as you could say. Now, it might be a whole nother story if it was a cookie crook, but we don't need to talk about that. What is indeed needed to be known is that a little thing with, like, Rem and Ram, basically, Izuku would be able to see it. Izuku isn't that freaking dense. It would take him a while, but soon he would begin to be able to tell exactly what was going on. They were fighting for his affection. They indeed, knew about their roles as, like, to serve, but, they also wanted in on, some of that vitamin Deku's D, vitamin Deku's dick going around town. And, well, Izuku would just be like, well, before any of that, well, probably would want to be married. And before any of that can happen, we would probably, have to seal the whole thing with actually everyone feeling the same way about the other person. And, well, it's already, a bit eccentric considering it would be a threesome wedding if the both of you are wanting in on this. And Ram would just be like, well, if the first step is, getting everyone on the same page, on the same track, of mind, of, thinking, for, Deku to love them and them to love Deku, which they already have decided that they love this man. They got love in spades for this man, or else they wouldn't have been trying to get into his D, his vitamin package. Try to get into his stimulus check all the way into the power pole. So, yeah. Indeed. This would be something. Something indeed very big. They both already loved him, but he was going to have to love them now. Like, both of them, if this was going to work. And then, it was going to have to go all the way into, like, beyond the friend zone, point of love. Like, actual boyfriend-girlfriend type love. And then, sink even more into the marriage phase. like the confessing of one's love, and like the confessions, and then the marriage, and then they would scale all the way up after that, and getting into the vitamin Deku's dick. And so, indeed, throughout throughout a good amount of time, well, I'd indeed say that with how her heart has been treated, with the past romance she tried to get into, where there was another person, like another female involved, Ram would kind of be on a rocky straits. So Ram would be able to take advantage of the occasion and, start to advance a little, easier than her, twin sister. However, Ram would soon begin to scale up the ladder up to where, Ram was, and it would be towards, like, this point of, actually getting to where they really, indeed, both, liked each other a lot. And, feelings of love were, weighing on, heavy. And I'm talking heavy weapons guy heavy. However, there would be no sandwiches involved. Sandwiches. Freaking love heavy weapons guy. Freaking love DF2. Yeah. Basically, they would be moving up the ladder, and Izuku, the feelings, everything would be going according to the plans. All that would be left is, there. It would mostly seem like they were in a stalemate for quite some time. That's whenever, Ram would just be in her room, and Ram would come busting through the door, and just be like, Ram, Ram, Ram! And Ram would just be like, what is it, Ram? And there would just be this box. Izuku gave me this box and said, you and me both needed to open it. That it was a gift. And, that there would be a message attached on the inside. Or at least attached to it. And, they would see what would look like the message, and they would kind of pull it, or at least, try to grab it, and they would pull it, and it would open up a secret compartment where there would be 2 rings. One that, there would be an engraving on it spelling Rem, and the other engraving, because, there would be 2 ones, there would be 2 rings, and they would both have engravings on them. One of the engravings would spell Rem, and the other one would spell Ram. Ram. And, they just had to, read the message now. They had to know what this all means. They're thinking of something, but they don't know. This could just be, some sort of trick, or, a test to see their, mental fortitude or some shit. Crazy like that. They don't ever really think that, Izuku would do them that way, how nice the guy is, overall. That is, unless you're, a criminal, a villain. And, know, they would see inside the note would be basically, Izuku would have said that he would want to have said something, but that what was inside the box would be able to see it, basically say it far better than he ever could, at least in front of both of their faces. But he didn't want to say like it in one before the other because he didn't want some sort of inferiority or inferiority, but complex to build and one of them to not feel as special as the other. So just gave out the little message along with the two rings. Seeing the engravings, the one that had the engraving Ram and the other one that had the engraving Rem, they would know that that was basically to show who basically the ring belonged to. And, well, that Ram would have indeed, seen Izuku try to hide one of his hands, and basically she'd just be like, and Ram would be like, nah, you aren't seriously trying to tell me, Ram, that before you're even reading the letter, you're already guessing because of the reason why he was trying to hide his one hand is because, basically that he might have actually had a similar ring with the engraving of Izuku. Well, he wasn't showing his other hand, so well, they wouldn't really know unless he wanted them to know, but that would be that's neither here nor there at the moment. So Ram would just have the note and be like, Ram would just be like, either you read the note or I'm going to read it. And Ram would just be like, okay, fine. You don't have to be so impatient. Basically, the note would basically say everything that Izuku was wanting to say to them. But, seeing as one of them was at one place and one of them was the other place, he didn't want to say, what he had to say to one of them before the other person, and say it to them later, making them feel not as important, not as special. He wouldn't want to do that to them. So, he basically decided to pull what he just did now. And, them thinking that he literally went through all this trouble just because he didn't want to make either of us feel bad or not as important or special. And Rem and Ram are like, no wonder we like this guy so much. So selfless and so actually, worth the title of #1 hero. Symbol of peace. He's just irresistible. Ain't that right, sis? And Rim will just be like, everything you just said I was already thinking in my mind. And so eventually, whenever the three of them would meet each other in the middle of one of the many hallways of their, place of living, basically, Izuku would indeed be able to spill everything, and even show the hand that he was hiding. And that indeed, it did indeed have Izuku engraved in it. Because, well, he wanted to show that their love was real in the, best way he knew how to show that their love was real. is that, to basically his real name, not like his hero name, but his real name. That's how real the love would be to him. Like their love for each other, or at least his love to them. And seeing as it had gotten to that point, Izuku, Rem, Ram, all three of them, just now realizing it, it was time. It would finally be about damn time. Izuku, Rem, Ram, basically, seeing as it's two women and, well, one freaking man, what exactly are they supposed to do about this? And, well, Ram, very puzzled. However, Rem would finally, actually say something. And be like, since you're not really willing to say anything, sis, I think I might have an idea. Why don't we, seeing as it's gonna be a threesome wedding, whenever we get to Vitamin Deku's dick time, we pull a double for that threesome. So that we get equal amounts of Deku's dick. And, Izuku would be like, so, like, not really a threesome in terms of what a threesome actually is, but, well, which one of you would want to go first? Because if that's how you guys are going to do it, then which one of you guys are going to want to go first so I know exactly what I'm getting myself into? We still have the wedding to go through before we do any of this Vitamin Deku's dick stuff. And, well, basically, they would frickin' play rock, paper, scissors. And, even Izuku would like frickin' flip a coin because they kept on getting it draw in rock, paper, scissors. So they would flip a coin, heads, Ram, tails, Rim. And Ram would just be like, ha! First. And Rim would just be like, well, I guess, being the one who's last, will just give me more time to prepare myself and make it be even better than anything you could ever dish out, sister. And, Izuku could literally not believe what he was hearing. They were making a competition out of sex. Jesus Christ, is this literally what he's going to have to deal with? In short answer, yes. Very, very, what he's going to have to deal with. Well, basically, just make a mental note. Ram gets to go first whenever they finally, have finalized everything by, wedding. And, basically, Izuku even decided to discuss about any, future, events like honeymoons. And, well, Rem would just be like, honeymoons? And, Ram would just be like, well, damn. You really do think of everything, you overanical little string bean. And Izuku's like, well, even as the way I am now, I still am kind of like a string bean. So, you're not wrong there, Ram. So, I guess, now that we have everything, planned out, And Rim is like, hey, I think you're forgetting something. The wedding. We don't have that planned out. And Izuku's like, oh shit, and it's getting very close. Gotta pick a venue and everything. Where we're gonna have the wedding, what type of cake, freaking people that are gonna be there, just how big the venue's gonna be, just overall kind of celebration, like theming. So much that I have to plan out. And, Rem and Rim are just gonna be like, we can always help. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, come on. And I just point to the maid uniforms. And Izuku's like, oh yeah, that's right. It would be logical for you two to help me plan out. Plus, considering you're planning on marrying me, good wives would always, indeed, help out the husband. Help Izuku out with planning. And, as for the people to be there, obviously, Aunt Mitsuki, Bakugo, and, of course, his mother. Like, why the hell, what deranged universe would he not include his mother in his freaking wedding? And, well, basically, anyone left out of Class 1A and 1B who weren't complete and total jerkwads. People that he would actually want to be at his wedding. And even some general studies people, because, Shinzo, I don't know if Shinzo actually survived the war arc, but Shinzo would be a part of general studies, and he would want Shinzo to be there, because, him and Shinzo had indeed, developed a friendship that would even go into their hero careers, as time, sometimes you would indeed see, the number one hero paired up with a certain unexpected type of hero. That unexpected type of hero being Shinzo. So, yeah, obviously Shinzo's gonna be there too. And so, yeah. And obviously, Izuku wouldn't want any pervs, so Mineta would not be allowed, especially because he would have 2 wives. So that's twice the amount of perviness that Mineta would have to feed off of. And, Izuku does not want to have to deal with that. So, and well, talking about, heroes that would, be there. Like, any of, the surviving heroes that, basically Endeavor wouldn't be allowed there. Because, well, I guess you could say he would, but that's only because Izuku would know that he's trying to clean up his act. And that's the only real reason why he would be allowed to come to the wedding. And so basically, yeah, that would be that. And, well, after the whole wedding thing was over, and, well, not really over, because there would be one last thing. Well, if you guys are wondering who the person who would be, saying, I now pronounce you man and wife, you may now kiss the bride, or whatever, if you're wondering who that's gonna be, I sure as hell hope that Aizawa isn't dead right now, currently, because I want it to be Aizawa. I seriously, if not Aizawa, then frickin' Principal Netsu, if he's not dead. If Aizawa's dead, Principal Netsu. If Principal Netsu's dead, Aizawa. If they're both dead, well then, shit. I don't know. Like, I guess Mount Lady, since we know she's alive because she took freaking Midnight Spot whenever she died. But, I either want it to be like freaking Aizawa or Principal Netsu. But, the person I'm thinking that I want it to be most is Aizawa, just because I think that would be so cool. Anyways, I'm just gonna say Aizawa just for, the fact that I think it's so damn cool. It would just be so damn cool. I thought it would be may now be pronounced now pronounced man wife. You may now kiss the bride, whatever. Just being his chillax self. And basically Izuku would have told Rem and Ram about Aizawa and how basically told them about everyone who was going to be at the wedding. So that no fights would break out. So, all that would be wondered is who to kiss first. And Izuku thinks that, the coin toss, Ram won the coin toss. So, in order to be, all is fair in love and war, though in this case, all is fair in a relationship, at least, this far in, that's what Izuku's trying to do. Make everything fair. Well, as fair as possible. Seeing as Ram won the coin toss, Izuku thinks Ram should be the first one to kiss, since she's going to be the second one to actually have sexual intercourse. And, Ram is like, fine, I'll wait. And Ram would just be like, just the two would get in, and it would just be like, mwah. And then, Ram would just be like, ready, set, go. And Izuku would be like, wait, what? And just like, mwah. And, it would just be big celebration, break out the freaking champagne. Just everybody be big celebration. And Aizawa would just be like, really? Do I have to break out the champagne this early? I mean, what about, the after party? You guys did schedule an after party, right? And Izuku would be like, well, I mean, I guess if you just want to stay a little bit longer, you could consider that an after party. I was really even rushed on planning the entire way the wedding was going to be in general. If it wasn't for Rem and Ram, I don't think I would have actually been able to do it. And, at this point, Aizawa would be like, you know what, Inko? And Inko would be like, yes, Mr. Aizawa? And, Aizawa would just be like, I think, shouldn't there at least be something of a flower tossing in, order? And Rem and Ram would instantly know what Aizawa was talking about. And they'd just be like, automatically grab, a thing of, flowers that, bundled up together. I believe bouquet. It's called the bouquet. They would just throw it, and it would be for whoever to catch, and that person who caught it, they'd be the next person to be married. And well, Inko, realizing that the flowers in the bouquet were mostly roses and some sunflowers, and even less some like tulips, but mostly roses, and she did not want to be stabbed in the eye with a rose thorn, so she would have used her telekinesis. But by the time she would have gotten with her telekinesis, you know, someone else would have, tried to capture the little bouquet with something of their own, to stop Inca from getting hurt. And seeing as that person, you know, even if it was grabbing it with, not actually grabbing it with their own arms, but grabbing it with like an accessory item, they still grabbed it. And well, Inca was using her quirk, so technically her quirk was touching it. So, we got two people about to be wed. And I basically, the person, who used that thing to catch the bouquet, the thing that caught it would have been a capture scarf. And who do we all know who has a capture scarf? Yes, that's right. Aizawa would have tried to save Inko from, the pain of rose thorns. And Inko, with her, power, not really powerful, but, strong enough quirk, would have, tried to use that to stop the bouquet. And, well, Rem and Ram would basically be like, you know what this means? You both caught it, so might as well confess whatever you need to confess. And Aizawa would be like, well, can, either one of us at least do it somewhere private? I mean, it's kind of crowded here. And Rem and Ram would be like, you take all the fun out of it, Scarsy. And Aizawa would just be like, what? Did you just call me? It would just be like, never mind. And Inko would be like, she would enjoy having privacy too. However, it would be noticed that it would be the area straight before the two different doors, the men's bathroom and the women's bathroom, right next to each other, the two different doors. The area right before there is where basically Aizawa would stop, but Inko would also stop there. And once Aizawa had finally opened his eyes, Inko would have opened her eyes as well, and realized they had went to the same place to find, freaking, some sort of actual, they don't even know. They don't even know anymore. And that's whenever Aizawa would start to think, you didn't come here for the reason why that you let on. It wasn't that you also wanted. You wanted something to do with me. And, Inko would just be like, not really feeling like telling a lie. She would just be like, guilty as charged. And Aizawa would just be like, then I guess it's free for me to say, guilty as charged. For, well, doing this. And then he would just wrap Inko up in his capture scarf and being like, Well? And Inko would just be like, um, is there any reason why they're doing this? And Aizawa would just be like, to be obvious, well, there's not much anything exciting going on in my life, and, well, anything else is just annoying and makes it hard for me to go to sleep. So, it's, not very often that I find something that actually, makes me want to stay awake so that I can look at it more, admire its beauty. Or, well, I guess you aren't an it, are you? I guess I should be saying admire her beauty. And Inko would just be like, uh, well, and Aizawa would just be like, don't tell me you're taken, Miss Midoriya. Like, don't tell me you're taken, Inko. Please don't tell me you're taken. And, just the way in which you would say that, it would just be like, and Inko would just be like, actually, no, I've been the exact opposite of taken for quite some time. And Aizawa would just be like, wow, I had a lot of opportunities to tell you what I thought about you. And I missed a lot of them. I guess the best opportunity is whenever it's pretty much handed to you silver platter style. Silver platter style. And Inko would just be like, well, I don't exactly know what Izuku will think whenever he hears about this. And Aizawa would be like, so wait, you're into me too? And Inko would just be like, again, guilty as charged. And Aizawa would be like, well, I guess, like a broken record. Again, guilty as charged. I'm really into you. Like, but if people started, like, noticing that out in the open without it actually being official, I could actually get fired. So, we wait until we can actually, like, exactly that, make it official first, before anything. And Wilenko's like, well, technically we both caught the bouquet, so I guess that's a perfect segue into both of us getting married to the significant other right next to them. And, well, Aizawa would be like, there's no one else in that room with them, so Aizawa was like, holy shit, this is actually going pretty damn well. And Inko would just be like, she is finally going to actually be able to do what Mitsuki's always wanted her to be able to do ever since she lost Hisashi. Rebuild a relationship, like, and get off her little sorry soapbox of depression and, build from the ground up, like, actually have her own happiness. And, well, she's finally going to be able to get to do that. She's just wondering if she'll, like, what kind of surprise Mitsuki will have on her face, and just how surprised she will be whenever she tells her about this. And, basically, she does indeed say that she will indeed wait until, it's time and everything, so that his job won't be in jeopardy, whatever, And I was always like, and I thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart for that. And, Inko starts to think considering Aizawa has a job as a teacher, and well, Inko really doesn't work. He actually makes some good money off of this. Actually, gets some pretty good money. And well, the way this is working out, Aizawa definitely wants her. She's definitely gonna be wanting him. So yeah, eventually it is indeed finalized. Both of them, are easily able to let it be known that, considering both of them caught the bouquet, and the feelings in between the two of them, they both of them will be the next ones to get married, and the reason why that will be is because they will be getting married to each other. Aizawa x Inko. Because I think that the both of them would be the right age range, just about the right age range in between each other to where it would be able to work. So, yeah. Aizawa x Inko up in this. I bet you guys didn't know you were getting 2 ships, technically 3 ships, because Izuku x Rem, Izuku x Ram, because it's a double package thing like the threesome marriage. And, now you're gonna get Inko x Aizawa, Aizawa x Inko, that whole shit. And, well, indeed, whenever that is told to Izuku about, the fact that his mother is actually, getting married to who used to be his teacher, like, good God. The whirlwind of emotions. However, no time for that. What it's time for now is vitamin D for Deku's dick. Time for that. Because marriage is already done. We know who's getting married next. And so, it is now time. Ram is going to get to go around first. And then Ram. But Ram decides that she's going to make the most out of it, seeing as, her twin sister is gonna get, to go first. And so Rim decides that whenever she gets her go around, she's gonna make it all more worthwhile. However, they do indeed, say that they don't indeed plan on making this a competition. It's just a fact that both of them really love Izuku. And so it's kind of hard not to, act like this whenever around him. And so Izuku's just like, well, I at least hope the more experience with this that you guys get, the easier it will be for you guys to not, constantly making this a competition in between the, 3 of us. So yeah. However, what indeed happens with this is, Izuku being the lovable doofus that he is, forgot something very important. And Rem and Ram never really having this whole thing about sexual intercourse, not really being prepared, not really having what's needed to be prepared. And so, yeah, it's safely to say that there's gonna be some baby mama drama at the helm, at this moment, because both of the twin sisters would figure out that there's a little bit of itty bitty version of themselves on the way. And Izuku is the father. Definitely. So, yeah. Hmm. Gotta wonder how it's gonna make Izuku feel. Basically, like, Izuku doesn't exactly think he's ready for this kind of responsibility. However, he doesn't just want to throw his children out, you know, and into some sort of like care of someone else that they may not even freaking know. And well, considering all of this, basically what happens here is, well, you know, this there's this thing. Oh, the child that Izuku has with Ram. Let's just say that whenever the doctors are looking over both children, the child that Izuku had with Ram and the child that Izuku had with Rem, they see a clear difference in, like, health. And Izuku's like, what do you mean a clear difference in health? And basically they state that the child that he just had with Rem, it's a good off chance that, you know, that it might not actually survive. And Izuku would just be like, what? Uh, are you trying to say that it's just destined to die? And, well, basically the doctor's like, well, you easily just put it in simple terms. Yes. Basically, Izuku's just like, oh, oh my. And, well, Ram would at least want, like, them to name their children first before they pull any sort of Moses shit. Or, like, freaking injection. Like, lethal injection shit. You know, basically, the way it is, the way how Izuku sees it, the children have already been named because, well, Rem and Ram were trying to pick out names from all these different things coming off the top of their head. And basically, Izuku was being his analytical self, and he would be writing all of these different things down for the different children. And, well, Izuku, seeing as the situation they were just now put in, would indeed, well, decide that the child that he had with Ram, so indeed it would look like a little, baby version of Ram. Because, that's a thing. And the thing about this is, however, even though they look like their mothers, you know, except for the fact that they're both, boys. Instead of being girls, they're both boys, yet they still do have the distinct look of their mothers, only their hair isn't like girl hair, it's like guy hair. Yeah, because basically, they look like their mothers, but, like guy version in like baby form. No. Izuku is just thinking off the top of his head what a name for Ram's like child that had with him. Well, oh, what do I do now? Think I might know. Maybe not. Oh boy. Uh, shit. Shit. Well, come back to you guys in a second. Basically, after a long time of thinking, Izuku would have names for both children. And, well, seeing as basically both mothers are distraught as hell about, the whole uh, kid that, you know, the kid that Rem had bared with Izuku, Rem's child, basically, they basically said that they didn't have that much longer to live. Or, like, much of a chance of it living that long at all. So, basically, you know, too distraught to really think, and Ram is just trying to calm her down, so they're okay with Izuku, pulling out the names. Basically, from all the mumbo jumbo of the different names, Izuku pieces up some things, seeing as, well, Ram has her wind powers, and Rem has her water powers. Well, what's Japanese for water? Mizu. What's Japanese for wind? Kaze. Basically, the kid that the mother's bared would be basically named after the, like, elemental magic that they control. Basically, so Ram's kid will be the one named Kaze. And, well, Basically, that would make Rem's kid Mizu. And so they would basically, instead of just like being, any which way about this whole thing, people will be informed, and, just be a bunch of sad energy all around. However, their privacy would indeed be kept, as there would be one last action that, Izuku would do. Seeing as they've already basically said multiple times that the kid doesn't have much left, in terms of life. And, well, basically what he's about to do, Mizu is Japanese for water anyways, so he decides to pull a Moses on poor little Mizu. Yes, indeed, the two brothers will be indeed separated from each other. Well, they're more or less like step-brothers because of the way the marriage was worked around. But they would still be, considered brothers. And the two brothers slash step-brothers, Mizu and Kaze, would indeed have just now been separated due to the Moses-y, like acts of Izuku Midoriya. What he just did there. So basically, Mizu Midoriya, because basically just give him the last name of the father, just do that, pull that off. Mizu Midoriya and Kaze Midoriya. Mizu Midoriya will basically, they would thought that since he would basically be no more in like a couple of minutes, possibly, maybe if he was lucky, hours, just decided to give him the Moses treatment. And, well, eventually the trip is stopped by a rock in the, middle of the path of the little basket in which our little Mizu Midoriya is in. You can hear the crying baby, basically, shuddered awake from the feeling of the collision with the rock. And there would indeed be someone who would see this basket, would hear the crying of the baby, and then basically this baby, well, they would get taken, because at this point they really weren't a baby. It had been a while, and so they were around like 2 at most, like 2 or 4, not really 4, like more or less closer to 2 at the time. Basically the reason for why the basket was so damn heavy, because it was a 2-year-old in there. They can still cry up a storm, though. And, well, a small child, they'd basically be taken to an orphanage. An orphanage where they would meet other kids. And, well, they would see that the other kids were around their age. Soon, after more time passed, would eventually be the child's birthday. Now, would the people of this orphanage know, the actual name? Well, it would have been written down on a little tag on the basket. Mizu Midoriya. And, well, you know, just, with all that, Mizu's quirk, if you could call it that, quirk, if you could call it that, would indeed be what they could only describe, what the people could only describe as like water manipulation. And, well, overall, is this water magic would indeed be passed down onto Mizu. But another thing that would be passed down onto Mizu through like all the genetics and shit would be ridiculous strength, because apparently he would almost have like a second quirk. Almost like he would have early access to the power of One for All. Yes, that's right. You would literally get One for All through his genetics. And that's gonna happen with Kaze as well. Basically, both Mizu and Kaze will be able to access One for All, like a certain version of it, and not just that, but even to the extent what exactly Izuku was able to turn into, that being full cowling, they would even be able to eventually do that. But right now, Mizu's only really able to tap into the basics of One for All. And, well, use his water manipulation quirk. So, he's basically considered a half and half kid. One quirk that allows him to manipulate water, like, on a vast scale of, like, shit that he can do with water. And the other quirk being, well, the only thing that they can really compare it to being One for All. Now that they know exactly what One for All is. Like, what the kid is showing off, they can only really tell as, like, early signs that he might actually have One for All through his, gene pool. And it goes the same for, Kaze. Kaze would, instead of having water manipulation, wind manipulation. Because, they would keep the facade up that it was all quirks. And, well, basically, Rem and Ram would be like, well, at least one of our children freaking survived. And, well, Rem would be like, don't remind me, Ram. And Ram would be like, oh, shit, touchy subject. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to bring up, anything about Mizu. basically, Mizu's gonna kind of be like Toya Todoroki. Be like that kind of like, you think they're dead, but they're not. Because apparently, went to the same doctor that diagnosed Izuku as quirkless. Yeah, Ujiko's still floating around, floating his boat. And he was the one, evidently, he wanted to get himself in on this to see what he could do, getting his little grubby hands in on this. And so he spread a little lie about the actual vitals of Mizu. In all reality, Mizu and Kaze, basically they had equal amounts of chances of surviving as like the other. So basically, yeah, Ujiko just lied to them just so that they could get, like, he could get one of these two, that could possibly grow to be prospering heroes in the future out of the way. Cut their strength in half. Still working on the side of villainy. That Dr. Ujiko. So, yeah, the only reason why, Izuku did what he did, pulled the Moses, is, because Dr. Ujiko lied directly to his frickin' face. And, that's why Mizu is growing up in an orphanage. The child of both Izuku and, Rem. Without even really all that well knowing it, all he knows is the Midoriya name is a connection that he has. The one connection that he knows he has, like, any sort of family, well, besides the orphanage themselves, the people of the orphanage itself, like the kids there, like the staff, they're like the only family that he can actually make a connection with, besides, like, this information, this Midoriya name. He wonders if, one of the staff could, maybe track it back so he could figure out, his parents and everything. However, that's kind of information that they're not really allowed to get into. For some reason, the Midoriya name is something that people aren't really allowed to scope out a lot, it's kind of like a classified thing. And so, Mizu would just be pissed. And, he would just grow up, eventually he would be at the same age as his brother, who actually does have a family that are his actual blood family. And the orphanage does indeed tell him that whenever he's 18, he'll have to find a life on his own because they won't be able to hold him anymore. And so Izuku, basically, not Izuku, but Mizu basically is like, well, I'm 15 right now. Well, there's no way in hell I'm becoming a hero. All throughout the rest of this, I'll work for something. See if I can come up with something that will give them a reason to fear me. If they realize that I'm alive, that I've always been alive, then they'll know they goofed up hard. and getting rid of me. You know, Mizu would just be like, and I'll have so much fun doing it. You know, it would just be like, yeah, so over the years, eventually 15, and well, yeah. Eventually it would be time. You know, it'd be time for the UA entrance exam. Mizu wouldn't be going, obviously. I mean, doesn't want to be a hero. Obviously wants to be a villain to get revenge on the people who he, you know, is going to do anything and everything in his power to figure out who they are. And whenever he does, he is going to find them and he is going to rain down his wrath upon them. Because not only does he have this powerful water quirk, like water manipulation, but he has the power of what can only be described as one for all, and even dabbling a little bit into some of the full cowling shit. And, well, oh boy, is it going to get intense. Because Kaze, you know, he is indeed going to be someone taking the entrance exam. And as for, well, what it's going to be this time around, same thing as, you know, what it was whenever Izuku was a kid. Like a written exam, and then a robot exam. And then, at the end of everything, you know, everything will be seen and analyzed over, and then the recommendation letters will be sent out eventually, and the day automatically after, like, the people, all the students, you know, future students get their exception letters, will be the first day of school. And, well, one thing on Kaze's mind always is that, well, the way things are, you would just swear that he was supposed to have a sibling. That, you know, supposed to have one. In which eventually Izuku would indeed confess that he was indeed supposed to have a sibling, but he kind of pulled a Moses, you know, because of what the doctor said about him not really, you know, having that good of chances of being alive for much longer. Unlike, you know, him, who, you know, had a perfect clean bill of health. I guess, you know, Dr. Ujiko didn't see, you know, him as that much of a threat, you know, as the other one, so, yeah. Kaze figuring that out, being like, well, what was his name? No. Did he even have a name? And Izuku was like, Mizu Midoriya. And, well, Kaze is just like, well, I guess that will just mean I'll have to do double the effort, as if he was there with me, taking the exam alongside me. Because, you know, automatically Kaze, like the true, almost absolute clone of Izuku Midoriya that he is, would refuse recommendations. The recommendation test. No, he would want to go in the traditional way. He's not an exact clone of Izuku, because, they all have their differences, and, the fact that, Rem and Ram, how Rem has the blue hair and the certain eyes. Same thing with Ram, but instead it's like a pinkish color. It would be like pinkish color and whatever color eyes for Kaze is what he would have. But he would indeed have the Izuku Midoriya haircut down. So, yeah. Oh boy. 1 hour. Anyways, I guess that will leave us off with Alan Zena Das's because the Dark Shadow Maverick is OUT out of here. Ya boys. Like, favorite, subscribe. Leave something in the comment section because I said so. Mamba bounce. Shit. Still, I'm a bounce.